9. The Kim Kardashian of crime. Claudia Ochoa Feliz gained notoriety as the alleged lead assassin under Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, who ran the infamous Sinaloa drug cartel, while the public at large came to know her as the Kim Kardashian of crime. People involved in the drug world called her the Empress of Anthrax, because the murder squad she supposedly led was called Los Anthrax. Felix, who worked as a model by day, denied being involved with the Sinaloa cartel, despite having a romantic past with a high-ranking member named Jose Rodrigo Arechiga. Her life was tragically cut short in late 2019 when she died from a drug overdose at 35 years old. She was found at a home in the state of Sinaloa the day after going out to dinner and to a nightclub. Because of her rumored position in the cartel, rumors began to circulate that Felix had been assassinated. But police did not suspect the man she was with when she died of foul play, and they reassured the public that she did not meet a violent end. There were no ongoing criminal investigations into her activities when she died, suggesting that perhaps Felix was telling the truth when she denied being part of El Chapo's criminal underworld. Nobody seems to know for sure whether she actually worked as a hit woman for the cartel or if it's just internet gossip. 8. The John Patterson kidnapping. John Patterson was a diplomat who started working in the U.S. consulate in Hermosillo in 1974. Just 2 months into the job, he disappeared one morning. Hours later, a note appeared at the consulate. It was clearly Patterson's handwriting, but definitely not his words. The letter stated that he had been taken hostage by a group called the People's Liberation Army of Mexico. They demanded a $500,000 ransom, as well as a news blackout. The group threatened that if word leaked out of Patterson's kidnapping, they would kill one U.S. official or a member of an official's family every week. Patterson was the 7th U.S. diplomat to be abducted in little over a year's time. Determined not to cave to the mounting demands for money in exchange for the safe return of consular staff, then-President Richard Nixon created a new law making it illegal to negotiate with terrorists or concede to their demands. Patterson's wife, Andra, did everything in her power to try to get her husband back to safety. When news of his kidnapping hit the media, she publicly apologized to his captors for it, even though it was out of her hands. Andra released newspaper ads and made announcements offering the abductors a $250,000 ransom and pleading with them to contact her. They never responded. At one point, people began to wonder if the whole thing was a hoax. Someone claiming to be a captive alongside Patterson called the consulate. In a suspiciously American-sounding accent, he told staff to have Andra travel to a hotel and give him the ransom money. She stayed at the hotel for several days, and nobody ever showed up to collect the payment. The FBI finally zeroed in on a suspect named Bobby Joe Kesey, who was staying at a hotel near the consulate when Patterson vanished. Kesey admitted to writing at least one ransom demand letter, but denied having anything to do with Patterson's disappearance. Prosecutors couldn't prove otherwise, so they offered Kesey a plea deal on a conspiracy to kidnap charge. He spent just 11 years in prison. A peasant discovered Patterson's decomposed body in the desert 345 miles, 555 kilometers north of Hermosillo. The skull and back bore signs of repeated violent blows. Kesey ultimately proved that he couldn't resist a good scam, even if it meant killing someone. He landed himself back in prison for the murder of a man he had tried to swindle. And this time, he's never getting out. 7. Gender reveal tragedy. Expecting parents seem to be getting more and more creative with their gender reveal stunts. But for some, the desire to pull off the biggest, best, or most unique gender reveal comes at a cost. Earlier this year, a couple thought it would be a fun idea to tell the world they were expecting a baby girl by having a plane fly by and release pink smoke over the waters off Cancun. Footage of the event shows the smoke spewing from the Cessna right before the plane suddenly crashes into the water. The mother and father-to-be could do little more than look on in horror as a day they had gone out of their way to make an awesome memory quickly turned into one they probably wish they could forget. It didn't help that just minutes before, while the plane performed some stunts, a guest at the party had made a joke about how they were fine with the plane crashing, as long as it didn't hit them. 2 people died in the tragedy. Unlike some other gender reveals gone wrong in recent years, the incident may not have resulted from sheer recklessness. The couple paid to rent the plane, and it's probably safe to assume that whoever was flying it was a licensed pilot. Authorities haven't said anything about the circumstances of the crash, and it's possible that the matter is still being investigated. 6. Pat Landers and KARLA BACA. The COVID-19 pandemic took the world by storm, leaving countless people stranded far from home as life ground to a screeching halt. 32-year-old Pat Landers and his girlfriend of 6 months, KARLA BACA, found themselves quarantining together in Juarez, Mexico. KARLA was from the area, but Landers was visiting from New York State when the Mexican government issued a stay-at-home order. A little over a month into the lockdown, the pair were shot dead in broad daylight while sitting in their Jeep outside a cell phone store. Using 3 different caliber weapons, the shooters pumped between 20 and 30 bullets into the couple. Police were unable to determine a motive for the double murder and have not named any suspects. Photos of the crime scene show that most of the shots seem to be aimed at the passenger seat, where KARLA was sitting. Law enforcement refused to comment when asked about whether they think she may have been specifically targeted. The tragic slayings of BACA and Landers were just 2 of over 100 killings that happened in the area since the stay-at-home order had taken effect. Juarez was already notorious for its high crime rates before the pandemic, and the problem worsened during lockdown. 5. Juan Hernandez. 15-year-old Juan Hernandez never expected to lose his life during a family vacation in Cancun back in 2015. While visiting the Mayan ruins at Tulum just days into the trip, the teen felt a burning sensation in his leg and realized that he was injured. He hadn't noticed at first because the wound was on a part of his body where he had no feeling due to a childhood accident. Hernandez had been bitten by a pit viper. He went to the hospital where he began to feel excruciating pain. Black and purple spots appeared on the teen's body as things continued to go from bad to worse. Juan's parents went to 4 different hospitals in a desperate scramble for antivenom. The first 3 hospitals didn't have any, and the staff at the 4th hospital allegedly took their time getting around to administering it. The boy's mother, Karina, told San Antonio news station KHOU that she begged employees to give her son the life-saving antidote, but her pleas fell on deaf ears. Juan bled to death after suffering for 30 hours. Believing that her son would probably still be alive if this had happened in the U.S., Karina used his death as an opportunity to warn others to travel with utmost caution and to prepare for possible medical emergencies. Do you think things would have been different if this happened in a different country? Let us know in the comments below, and if you're liking this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. 4. Migrant kidnappings. Smuggling vulnerable, undocumented migrants from Central and South America to the U.S. is a lucrative industry. And the so-called guides who promise to get people who are desperate for a better life from point A to point B do not always live up to their end of the deal. Many migrants are kidnapped by the very people they trust and pay to help them reach safety. Oftentimes, the smugglers who agree to help asylum seekers are working for drug cartels like Los Zetas, which has a reputation for being ruthlessly violent and placing little to no value on human life. Kidnappings are known to happen in at least 8 Mexican states where cartels control vast territories. Migrants are often held for ransoms that they and their families can't pay after already giving their last dollar to the smugglers. Survivors describe the captors as heartless, with some witness accounts claiming that the criminals even subject children to brutal interrogations and threats. These abuses are rarely reported, presumably because the victims are usually trying to cross international borders illegally and fear getting into trouble with the law themselves. And cartels often have connections to corrupt law enforcement, giving them an automatic upper hand either way. As a result, kidnappings and other horrifying crimes against migrants typically go unchecked. 3. Giovanni Lopez Ramirez. Mexico is plagued by ongoing police corruption and abuse of power. Numerous unarmed civilians have been killed in recent years while in police custody, and law enforcement has been accused of using torture and other brutal punishments on detainees. Last year, the nonprofit organization Human Rights Watch, HRW, released a statement calling on Mexican officials to hold crooked cops responsible for their actions and to professionalize the country's police forces. HRW spokesperson Jose Miguel Vivanco mentioned the ties between Mexican law enforcement and organized crime, and cited ongoing protests as proof that the public's distrust of the police runs deep. The protests were sparked by viral footage that showed officers violently arresting a construction worker named Giovanni Lopez Ramirez for violating a COVID mask mandate. When Ramirez's family went to pick him up from jail, the police sent them to the morgue, where they found him covered in bruises with a bullet lodged in his leg. Officials told the devastated relatives that the police had simply gotten carried away with their treatment of Ramirez. A local leader allegedly offered the victim's brother money to keep the story quiet and threatened to kill the family if they spoke out. Activists took to the streets to voice their outrage. Instead of taking it as a sign to clean up their act, police reportedly dressed plainclothes and threatened demonstrators with baseball bats. They were also accused of cramming protesters into a van and abandoning them in the middle of nowhere. Several officers were charged with torturing and killing Ramirez. Their trials are ongoing, but given Mexico's history of police corruption, it's hard to have high hopes that justice will be served. 2. Kidnapped into crime. Technology is a wonderful thing, but it has also made children more accessible to predators, leading us to the next item on today's list. A group of 5 kids between the ages of 12 and 15 who live in the city of Oaxaca became avid players of what seemed like a harmless video game called Free Fire. Little did they know, members of the Northeast Cartel noticed their passion for the shooting game and thought that the youths might be just as skilled with real guns. The criminals reached out to the kids after finding them in a WhatsApp group dedicated to the game, and offered the adolescents big money to work for the crime syndicate. They took the bait and soon disappeared. One boy even wrote his parents a goodbye letter, telling them not to worry about him and saying that he'd send money home soon. The boys were taken to a cartel safe house, where it became clear that they were being held against their will. Realizing they'd made a huge mistake, they uploaded their photos to social media and pleaded for someone to rescue them. Security officials traced the children's cell phones and went to the house. A woman who answered the door claimed that a child's birthday party was going on, but law enforcement didn't buy the story. They went inside the home and found the captives, who were safely reunited with their families. Cartels are increasingly using violent video games as a platform for finding and grooming new prospects. They specifically target teens who are impressionable and easy to manipulate. Adolescents are lured by the promise of money, nice things, and in some cases, a better life for their family. What these headhunters don't tell kids is that fresh recruits carry out a crime ring's most dangerous jobs. And with an estimated 35,000 or more teens joining cartels every year in Mexico, these low-level criminals in training are easily replaceable. It's a system that exploits children by design and could easily turn deadly. 1. When a prank became reality. Areline Martinez was an avid TikToker who, like many people who use the social media platform, thought it would be funny to film a prank for her followers. About a year ago, the 20-year-old got 10 of her friends to stage a kidnapping outside her home in the state of Chihuahua and film the encounter. In the video, Martinez appears to be blindfolded and bound by the wrists and ankles. A man seated next to her played the role of a fellow hostage, while another male attacked her and his accomplice waved a gun in the air. The footage shows the pretend male hostage being forced to his knees with a gun to his head shortly before someone accidentally shoots Martinez dead. Everyone fled the scene, and only one person bothered to call the police: some friends. Speaking with the Mexican news outlet Preciso, Chihuahua State Attorney General Cesar Augusto Piniche said that someone probably tampered with a gun without realizing that it was loaded. He said that an investigation was necessary and reassured the public that if anyone meant to harm Martinez, they would be held criminally responsible. Tragedies like this serve as sobering reminders that at the end of the day, it's not worth putting oneself in danger just for attention on social media. Thanks for watching. Do you have any of your own crazy stories about your trip to Mexico? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time. Bye.